Hello, my name is Zakiah Fuller, and today I will be speaking to you about Michelangelo and one of his famous paintings, The Last Judgment. Michelangelo was born in a small village in Caprice, Italy on March 6, 1475. The son of a government administrator, he grew up in Florence and became an artist's apprentice at the age of 13. Demonstrating obvious talent, he was taken under the wing of Lorenzo de' Medici. Michelangelo became a sculptor, painter, architect, poet, and engineer of the Renaissance and exerted an unparalleled influence on the development of Western art. He was considered the greatest artist in his lifetime and has since been held to be one of the greatest artists of all time. In Vatican City, Rome, Italy, Pope Clement VII commissioned Michelangelo to paint The Last Judgment shortly before his death. It was confirmed by his successor, Pope Paul III Alessandro Farnese, in 1535. This Christian art piece was the largest single fresco mural painting of the 16th century, and it took Michelangelo 4 years to complete. Located on the altar wall of the Sistine Chapel, it is considered to be the greatest masterpiece of religious art by any other painter in the 16th century and represents either the late flourish of the High Renaissance or the first major art piece that exemplifies the beginning of the Mannerist movement, which was a movement that emerged after the High Renaissance and favored compositional tension and instability rather than the balance and clarity. Michelangelo used a technique specific to mural painting called fresco. This is when the painting is executed upon freshly laid lime plaster. Water is used as the vehicle for the pigment, and with the setting of the plaster, the painting becomes an integral part of the wall. Another element that Michelangelo added to The Last Judgment was the overlapping of his figures in densely packed groups, forming chains to indicate the current of movement, whereas earlier painters gave the illusion of depth to their Last Judgments by depicting choirs of similarly posed figures receding in perspective. Through this painting, we can see that Michelangelo was not the same man he was when he painted the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel nearly 25 years prior. On the ceiling, Michelangelo presented us with God's plan to redeem a fallen mankind, and the figures he recreated are ideally beautiful and heroic. In contrast, the figures in The Last Judgment are ill-proportioned and assume ugly, awkward poses. Christ appears here not as a redeemer, but as an angry judge. Around the dynamic center of Christ, a swirl of male and female nude bodies, in keeping with his humanist philosophy, with every figure in motion or tense with emotion. Below him and to his left are the damned who are being pulled down to hell and shipped to hell, where they are being tortured by demons. Below Christ and to his right are the blessed who rise from their graves and float up to heaven with the aid of angels. Surrounding Christ and what is said to be the Virgin are crowds of saints, martyrs, and others who have risen to paradise. We can recognize Saint Loris, who carries a grill because he was burned to death. Saint Catherine, who carries a wheel because she was martyred on the spokes of a wheel, Saint Sebastian with arrows because his entire body was pierced by arrows, and Saint Bartholomew, who carries his skin because he was martyred by being skinned alive. In the lower right side of the painting, we can identify Charon, the boatman from classic mythology, who ferries the damned to the underworld. Charon is described as a demon who torments the damned and bullies the reluctant with blows from his oar. At the foot of The Last Judgment, in the center of the painting, is the cave, a black cavern filled with demons. It is unclear what the cavern represents, but today, experts now believe it signifies purgatory. It was only from purgatory that one could escape, and the priest at the altar would know that his celebration of Mass was helping souls suffering in purgatory. The scene of the Day of Judgment, where Christ separates the blessed from the damned, was very popular and often represented on the doorways of churches in the 9th and 10th centuries, so that you had a frightening image of Christ's return on your way into church, and perhaps to remind those that didn't go to church where they were going to end up. So, on that note, the end, and thanks for watching, even though it's kind of mandatory.
Created using Powtoon.